Welcome guys, today I'm going to do an updated weapon tier list for all the weapons in the game, basically comparing every single gun in the game relative to each other, putting that in a nice and easy viewable view where you can see exactly how I rank the different weapons. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use this template in the tier maker tool, and we're going to place all these weapons in the different categories, S plus being the top tier category, D being the absolute worst. This template is missing a few weapons. It's missing the O12 and the MP9, but we'll find a way to put this in after. Let's get into it. The first weapon, the AUG, easy S plus tier weapon in the game. You know, arguably the best assault rifle in the entire game. Absolutely insane bullet velocity, great damage, good rate of fire, and extremely good handling. Like, this gun is a beast. Next up, the AK. And the AK, while it is a very good assault rifle actually, because it has the ability to kill someone in 1/10 of a second, 100 milliseconds, if in a combination against level 2 vests where you hit the helmet and then the body, that is quite specific. So it does not belong in the same tier as an AUG. It simply doesn't. It's a great assault rifle and S tier is good, but I cannot put it in S plus. Now we have the M249, and oh boy, this is a great weapon because you can go prone, you can spray down with high precision, you can have potentially 150 bullets in a magazine. Actually, you can get a little bit more, but this gun has a potential high damage output, but it has a problem. And the problem is spraying while standing. When you're shooting while standing, it is extremely hard to control. And for that reason, I have to put it in B tier. I cannot really justify putting it in higher because there's simply going to be too many situations where this gun will fall short in a situation where you have to stand while you shoot. It's just too difficult. And shooting this while drive-bying is even crazier because it adds another like 10% recoil on top of that. So it's a good gun, but it's too situational to rank higher than B tier. And I think we should take the DP28 right after this because I have to put this even at a lower rank, since that's another LMG, has the same issue with the standing spray. However, even though it has great bullet velocity, actually, much better than you would think for a 7.62 weapon, it has fewer bullets in a magazine. It has this huge issue with the disc of the weapon that will, slap up into your face if you're moving close to a wall while aiming above the center line of the screen, which you often are. So often it will block your vision. And also, it has a problem compared to the M249 that it just kills slower. All right, it has a lower rate of fire. Yes, it does more damage per shot, and a lot more. I think it's 52 damage compared to 41. However, the rate of fire is so much lower that you still kill faster with an M249. So this is going to be C tier. And then we have the M416, easy S plus tier as well. This is a weapon that does belong in the same category as the AUG. It is just exceptionally good, and it's been so far for ages. This is a top tier assault rifle. Very, very, very strong. The AWM, we're going to put this in S plus tier. The reason I'm hesitating a little bit here is because sniper rifles, in general, I feel like they don't belong in the same tier as DMRs. DMRs have the ability to much more easily take down moving targets, finish people who have been knocked, take out multiple targets if you're shooting at a team, and they have the wonderful luxury of being way more forgiving when you miss shots because you can take multiple shots. All right, so but still the AWM is extremely strong. It one-shots level 3 helmet, no problem, and it does very high body damage, high bullet velocity. We're gonna put it in an S plus. The barrel, also an S plus weapon, super strong assault rifle, goes nice hand in hand with the M4. Those are really the two top tier non-airdrop assault rifles in the game that most people choose, really. However, for that we also kind of need the Ace, which actually, now that I notice, is not here. But the Ace would also belong in the S plus category. It sort of sits in between the barrel and the M4. We'll add the Ace to this in post-editing. So next we have the DBS, and the DBS, oh my God, top tier, S+, like insane gun. This is perhaps the most unbalanced weapon in the game, meaning that this got taken out of an airdrop, but it didn't get nerfed. So it's tuned for as to be an airdrop weapon, but you can find it in the normal world. It's insanely strong. It needs a bit of a nerf to be within reasonable balance. And then you have the crossbow. The crossbow, you know, guys, I have to put it in deeds here. Why? This is a fun gun. It's very situational. Yes, you're right. You can one-shot a level 3 helmet, so shouldn't it be here? Well, it's really, really difficult to use. It has typically gotten very, very few arrows when you find it. It's got extremely low flight velocity, so the bolt will fly very slowly. It's just very, very difficult to use. I would not imagine anyone going for a game that they want to win prioritizing this over even a DP28. Like, let's say you're playing for $50,000, you would not take this gun. It's a fun gun, but if we're ranking the strength of the weapon, it belongs here, which is fine. You know, you can have fun guns that aren't strong, but can potentially be really strong and are super fun. Then you have the G36C. The G36C is basically like a worse M4. I think we might have to put it in S tier. I'm not a fan of this gun. I don't like it. I don't really use it that much. But yes, it does handle a little bit worse than the M4, but it can still kill quite fast, and it's still actually not a bad assault rifle. And it does belong in the same tier as the AK. And then we got the Groza. Okay, so the Groza, it's a tough one because I feel like this could definitely be a little bit stronger. The Groza has this big issue where the scope or the sight for that matter, sits very high above the barrel, which means that often you might get into these situations where you can see the enemy. Your enemy is right on your in the center of your red dot, but you're still gonna hit the top of a wall, of the top of a rock or a window frame. This happens way more with the Groza. It definitely belongs in S+, but I also feel like it could be a little bit stronger. That wouldn't hurt. And we have this beautiful icon here, the K2. Oh, yikes. I think we need to put it in B tier. We need to put it in B tier. I can't put it in A tier. Because in A tier, you would have something like, you would have a Scar. And the Scar is a better weapon than the K2. The problem with the K2 here is that the K2 has this really, really frustrating first bullet recoil, where it's very, very easy to lose control in the early spray. If it didn't have this, we could rank it higher. But in my opinion, the gun doesn't feel good. Some of you might disagree with me, but I'm going to put it in B tier. It belongs in the same category as an M249. Then we have the Kar98. And the Kar98, I'm going to put it in S tier. You might say, but Wacky, that's blasphemy. It's the Kar98. No, it's a sniper, and it has this issue like I talked about earlier. Compared to a DMR, there's just too many situations where a sniper will fall short, where you would rather have a DMR. The thing about, I don't know if you watch pro games, that's the top level of professional play in squad. Most people will use DMRs. I don't know, like 80% or more. A bolt action can be nice for an opening knock to make a nice push, and definitely can be a very strong solo weapon because you need one bullet. However, you also need to land that one bullet. Like, you can hit like several shots on the body without killing anybody. So it belongs in S tier. Great weapon, but I cannot put it as high as I would be able to put a Mini, for example. Mini, S+. Insane weapon, just super high bullet velocity, great handling, especially also noticeable while standing. Very often you have to stand while you shoot. Mini performs excellent when shooting while standing. And the Mini is very close, pretty much in the same ballpark as the MK12. The MK12, though, have gotten a buff recently, and now also a buff with the buff of the light grip, because the light grip is now stronger, and that goes on the MK12, thereby making the MK12 even stronger. MK12 is in some situations better than a mini. I think the only situations where I wouldn't want an MK12 is really if I'm trying to shoot fast while I'm standing. In any other situation, I think the MK is desirable. So definitely S plus, very, very strong. And the lengths, the lengths, we have to put in S plus too. It has the ridiculous bullet velocity. Like, I don't know, I think it's like 1500 meters per second, like, or is it 1200? Like, it's unreasonably fast. And it can do exceptional damage. You can shoot through the window of a BRDM. Of course, the problem here is that it only has 10 bullets when you open it from a crate, right? And you cannot get more bullets in a length. So that's, of course, the downside. But I have to say that once you get this, it just absolutely slaps hard. Okay, let's put another S tier weapon up there. MK14. I mean, that's obvious. Obvious S tier weapon. Some say this is the best gun in the game. You got that full auto mode, and you can put a red dot on it, and you can use it as an assault rifle with extremely good time to kill. Or you can use it as a DMR and do extreme damage on range. And it has pretty good handling too, assuming that you do get the attachments, because otherwise it can be quite punishing. And then we have the M16, which is a B tier weapon, because this is a weapon that actually, together with the Mutant, I have to compare these two assault rifles with DMRs, because that's the role that they play. The burst mode is terrible when compared to a full auto assault rifle. And I guess, you can get a situation with the Mutant. So the Mutant would perhaps be like in a B plus tier that we don't actually have here. Because the Mutant, you can get that really, really perfect cadence on your clicking in burst mode, where you will get like a really fast rate of fire. That could make this gun kill very fast, potentially. However, I still have to compare it with, a DMR or a full auto weapon. And in that situation, it's a weapon you pick up and you typically drop when you get a DMR. That's how most people play this. But it's, Mutant is definitely better than the M16, I'd say. But and no, let's put it here. I'm going to put the Mutant in A tier. Because you can do some pretty crazy things with this gun. It's just a little bit difficult, but I'm going to put it here. That makes more sense to me. It can't be in the same category as the M16, I think. And then we have the MG3. Ooh, MG3, that's a tough one. I think this is an S tier weapon. And the reason I think this is because it has the same issue as the DP28 and the M249. However, you can still do way more damage with this gun. It has like the 990 bullets per second mode, and it can be like an absolute shredder in like close to mid range. Standing spray here is terrible, but you can go to a lower rate of fire, making that more doable. So it has more to offer, and it's an S tier weapon. It would be fair to put this in this category, I think. M224, same category as the Kar 98. The M24 is statistically slightly better than the Kar 98, although it does less damage per bullet. It has a faster bullet velocity, which is actually really important. And both guns one-shot a level 2 helmet. So, which is really the selling point of a sniper. But for most people, the Kar 98 will probably be the choice because you're more used to the bullet drop. You're more used to the bullet velocity. So you just hit more shots because you have more experience with that gun. But they belong in the same category. The Uzi, C tier. And the reason we're putting this in C tier is because this is, it's a submachine gun that's strong. Yeah, it's a strong submachine gun. However, it's too situational. You would use this in close quarters. You don't use this on mid to long range. It doesn't take a scope. This is a close quarters weapon. And in close quarters, you will get obliterated by shotguns. Shotguns dominate close quarters. This is not a good choice if you're going close quarters, which is, the purpose of the Uzi. So it has to be C tier. That's where it belongs, I think. Mosin, same category as the Kar 98, because it's basically the same gun. And then we have the MP5K. The MP5K is a very good submachine gun. We're going to put this in S tier. It's very, very good. It has good handling, good damage. It has a great performance while scoped as well. And It's an S tier submachine gun. And the reason we put this submachine gun so much higher than the Uzi is because this can do more than the Uzi. This is not a gun you have to use for close quarters. You can put a scope on this. You can much more easily control this spray over distance. This is just a better weapon. It also has a nice magazine capacity for that matter. Oh, and then the P90. S plus tier. I think these two weapons are the MK14 and the P90, the best guns in the game. The P90 is exceptionally strong. So good. It's a great long-range submachine gun too, although you are probably going to be wasting your ammo a little bit there, so you might want to be more careful because you only have 200 when you get it. It's very, very strong. It has a flippable scope where you can adjust your zoom as well. This is just an excellent weapon. And the pan, we have to rank the pan. The pan is S plus tier, is obviously the only melee weapon that provides actual protection. Bulletproof pan, huge. The Panzerfaust, I want to put it here. This is also S plus tier. The reason being, this weapon can one-shot any armor in close quarters, or also from range for that matter, although that's really difficult to pull off. But it can one-shot anybody without even hitting them. That's insane. So typically when I get this weapon, the Panzerfaust, I just rush somebody early game and I just shoot them. Like they blow up, doesn't matter, and we laugh about it, and then you continue with your looting. This is an insane early game weapon. And now the PP19, the PP19 being slightly worse than the MP5K, but I think the PP19 is actually an underrated submachine gun. I'm going to put it in A tier. It does less damage than the MP5K, but I feel like it has a lot of bullets in the magazine, does take a scope, has a good control, good handling. A tier. QBU, that is an S tier, S plus weapon. You are same power ranking as a Mini or MK12. So very, very strong, and it's the best prone fast clicking DMR in the game as well. QBZ is an assault rifle that we're going to put in the same category as the SCAR. This one is a little bit more difficult because the QBZ does kill faster than the SCAR, and I feel like the QBZ has a better, balance between rate of fire and damage. It performs better than the SCAR, but the problem is that the scope or sight sits so much higher than the barrel that you're gonna get the same problem with this gun as you do with the Groza. Too often, you will simply hit something that you're not aiming at because the bullet comes out of the barrel and not the sight. So I think that is an element we have to take into perspective. So it ends up in the same category as the SCAR, I think. S12K belongs in C. The S12K is not a good gun, but it also is a shotgun that can definitely take out enemies close quarters. Like you're dealing with a gun here that I think is kind of a fair duel to an Uzi in close quarters with equally skilled players. I think so. It drops damage way too quickly over distance to be higher ranked, and also the damage is just it's just not good. It's a fun weapon where you can put that suppressor on it and have some fun with that. But I think that belongs in C. The S1897 shotgun, however, does belong in S tier. This is a shotgun that very easily one-shots everybody in close range. A super powerful close quarters weapon, absolutely super hard hitter, but not as strong as the DBS. The DBS can just dish out way more damage in the same time that you could do with the 1897. But S tier, very, very strong weapon here. The S686, though, that's going to end up being an A tier shotgun. And the problem is that it does less damage than the 1897, but it does have that double shot, which is kind of cool. You can do two quite quick shots, but then you got a pretty long reload. it seems like this should be a tier lower than the 1897. SKS, a DMR that it does not belong in the same tier as the other DMRs. It's just one step lower in terms of power ranking. The reason being that it doesn't do enough damage to compete with the SLR. You have to compare these two. SLR, yes, it has more recoil, it's a little bit more difficult to control, but really the handling of the SKS is not that great until you have it basically fully attached, which require a lot of attachments. So it's difficult to set up. SLR is easier to set up. And there's this huge and very, very important difference between these two. The SLR will very often, on an enemy that's 100 meters or further away, require 3 shots to kill, where the SKS will require 4 shots to kill. So that is a massive difference that really puts the SKS at a lower ranking. However, if you are in that, like, if you're looking for some, a DMR that can be used effectively on, like, I don't know, 60, 80 meters, SKS will perform better than an SLR, I'd say. But you use a DMR for longer ranges than that typically. So this is how it's going to be. Tommy gun, a fun gun, but I do think it is the worst of the SMGs. It can actually dish out a lot of damage, but the handling is just not good. And it doesn't take a scope. It's just a gun that's not used very much. And every time I use it, I feel like I often feel like I get disappointed. It belongs in D tier. It's a fun weapon, and it's a weapon I want to use a little bit more, but I'd rather have an Uzi than a Tommy gun close range. Yeah. The UMP 45, though, is a very good submachine gun that I think I'm going to put in S tier. This has extremely good handling. It's so easy to shoot. You can basically laser people. It's very, very usable with a scope as well. Like I said, long range SMG, perfect for a map like Santa. And it does a lot of damage. So it's going to be an S tier weapon. It's not S plus. The Vector is, and I know some of you will disagree with me here. I'm going to put this in B tier because the handling has this weird thing where unless you have the perfect sets of attachments, it feels like it accelerates in the recoil. So I have a really hard time controlling it. I think this is one of the most difficult guns to control perfectly. On let's say you have an enemy 50 meters away, let's say 40 meters away. You want to spray down this enemy, you have a red dot. I think the Vector is quite wild and difficult. Have very high rate of fire means that it climbs quickly, and it's just very easy to lose control of this SMG. And then when you compare it to like super close quarters situations, then you would rather have a shotgun. The shotgun will beat the Vector close quarters, but I also feel like it's better than the Uzi. So it needs to be a step up from the Uzi, but it also has to be a step down from a shotgun. So except for the SVK, I would rather have the Vector than the SVK. So yeah, the VSS though is we're either C or B tier. It is a fun gun, but it also can do a lot of damage. It's certainly usable throughout the entire game. It does require stealth gameplay, but I think we have to put it in B tier. It's definitely a better weapon than these three here. But also I cannot justify putting it higher than the A tier weapons that we got here. So it belongs in B tier. Personally, one of my favorite weapons, if not my actual favorite weapon in the game. I love using it. I have a lot of fun with it, but that doesn't mean that it belongs in a higher tier. Okay. And then we got the Win 94. Same story, really. It's a B tier. It can be good in some situations. You can shoot pretty fast. You can land multiple shots pretty fast. It does have a mounted scope that you can't flip down. The scope is 2.7 times zoom, which in my opinion does make the sensitivity feel a little bit weird. I don't know why. It just feels weird for me on this gun. So I have to put it here. And lastly, sawed-off shotgun. You know what? This is the only handgun I'm going to include in this. And the reason I'm not going to include the handguns is because, well, we can include the handguns. I mean, they're going to be the bottom. We're going to put this one here. And then we're going to say revolver. We're going to put that here. Also C tier. Bottom tier handguns would be... that would definitely be the Deagle. That's the worst handgun in the game. The handling is just terrible, and the damage is not high enough to justify it. Then you basically this, right? But then again, the reason I didn't want to rank these initially is because if you look at this and say power ranking handgun compared to a Tommy gun, well, then we have to do this. So we kind of need a new category to do this. But you would definitely, if you had another category, you would definitely take the Deagle and put that in the bottom category. Yeah, the Deagle right here. You would definitely do that. And lastly, let's do some magic. Even though the icons are not here, let's do some magic. Let's in the S plus tier right here, we're gonna put the Ace. The Ace belongs here. It's right in the middle between an M4 and a barrel. It's a great damage dealer. It's a great assault rifle. We're going to put it here. And then we got to put the 012 shotgun. The 012 shotgun belongs, in my opinion, in B tier. It is a weapon that simply has too much recoil. It can do very, very hard hits, but it's just too random if you do a spray, and the burst mode is super difficult. Single fire can be decent. You know, maybe if we got to play Destin, so we could use the gun more, I'd change my mind about this, but I'm going to put that in B tier, like that. And then we have the MP9, which is going to be S plus 2. MP9 belongs right there in the S plus category. Great submachine gun, great damage, very, very awesome handling, super fun to use. It feels like a bit of a mini P90. But it's also not as good as a P90. Let's be very clear about that. It's not as good as a P90, but I do feel like I'd rather have an MP9 than the UMP or the MP5K. So maybe, yeah, just slightly below the P90. But that's it, guys. That's what it looks like. That is my tier list 2023 for the PUBG weapons. Who knows if we get new weapons this year? I guess I'll have to update the list, but that's it for now. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you found it interesting, and I'll see you guys next time.